The views and opinions expressed by this program's hosts, guests, listeners, and viewers are solely the views and opinions of the original source who expresses them. They do not necessarily represent the views and opinions of TV5 Network Incorporated, its subsidiaries and affiliates, and their respective stockholders, directors, officers, and employees.
Sounding off from Los Angeles, the undisputed king of podcasting, who's all about the good times, Mo Twister. Representing New York City, a social media monster and co-creator of the Not Bill Walton Twitter feed, Chris Savage. All the way from Sydney, Australia, a basketball media veteran and unapologetic cultural critic, Bradford Graham. Holding it down from Manila, a seasoned sportscaster with the studio skills to pay the bills, Gino Rufino. This is Full Court Report.
Hey, it's the Full Court Report, and we have a fine show set up for all of you guys listening. We are four guys from four different parts of the world talking NBA hoops. My name is Mo. I am in Los Angeles. We have Chris Savage over there in New York. In Sydney, Australia is Bradford Graham. And in studio, right there in Metro Manila, Philippines, is Gino Rufino. So let's get this program started. Let's go to Brad first, who is in Australia. Brad, I got 12 minutes for you, my friend. Let's start the show off with a bang. What do you got?
Yeah, thanks, Mo. I really wanted to sort of, turn a spotlight onto one superstar that I don't feel is getting enough love, isn't talked about as much as he used to be, and that's the Miami Heat's Dwayne Wade. Not too long ago, he was clearly one of the most popular players in basketball, one of the most talented too, but his talent has subsided a little bit. I guess his injuries have sort of taken front seat over the last two seasons. He's missed a combined 48 games. But this year, Wade seems to be back and healthy. He's, stayed in the lineup the longest he has to open a campaign since 2009, 2010. He signed that $20 million contract last summer, a one-year deal. So he's kind of trying to obviously prove his worth to Pat Riley and the Heat's front office. And he's now returned to the front of the All-Star balloting as a leading guard in the East. But I feel like across the landscape, we're not, paying as much love to Dwayne Wade as we used to. Am I right in saying that we've kind of started taking D Wade for granted? Is it time we showed him more love? Or is it just part of the course now? Wade's proven himself and we just pretend like he's always going to be there. Who's still got a little love for Dwayne Wade? That's what I want to know. Mo, let's start with you.
Well, I don't know why we're not excited about him, because he's just slightly above average now as an NBA player. I mean, the memory of him being a superstar still fresh in our minds, so we think, oh, okay, he deserves more respect. He deserves the fanfare that he's getting for the All-Star game. But, I mean, if you look at the numbers, 18, 3, and 4, and that's about it. There's nothing else kind of sexy there. The field goal percentage is average. Free throw percentage is average. Everything else is just kind of average. And but
average for Wade or average for the NBA?
I'd say average, a little above average for the NBA, way below average from what we remember Dwayne Wade to be. And that's natural, because there's always going to be a decline with these guys as the years go by. I think he's held up well. And for that, considering all the injuries and stuff like that, for that we should applaud him. But a $20 million player with these numbers and this contribution, I think more really it's the presence he brings on that Miami team, a team that is doing rather well. I think that's where he's going to earn his money and his respect. But as of the excitement that Dwayne Wade used to bring to us, it's just not there. I mean, he's averaging less than a block per game. Gone are the days where he was such this shot blocking defensive force as well. So those days are gone.
A slightly above average player in the NBA. This guy
18, 3, and 4 is slightly above average.
James Harden, only behind James Harden only James Harden's ahead of him in efficiency. I know efficiency doesn't mean everything, but it's a big deal when it comes to NBA play. Above average, no. He's still a viable, strong player. He's not a $20 million player. I agree with you there. He has to help lead a team that's among the best teams in the East, along with Bosh and a lot of contribution from Whiteside. So he's a focal point of that team, one of the better teams in the East and in the NBA. He's not an above average player. He's a very good player. He's not a great player anymore either. And it's time that we do pay attention to him, especially if he's going to stay healthy.
Pay attention or pay homage? Do we respect his past contributions? Because this year...
Pay attention to someone who can get it done and help a team be a top seed, one of the top seeds in the playoffs in the East, and make a nice
Mo.
Pay attention that way.
Chris and Mo, where do you guys have the Heat without D Wade? Are they even top 3 in the East without him? Like, who is it? Like, where do they fall if they don't have Wade?
I think without Wade, they're still definitely a playoff team in the East. You just plug in maybe a Gerald Green there. He's gonna average probably more points. He's not very good to do a good job defensively, but they lose Wade, they're still going to survive, and they're better with him, obviously, but they're still a playoff team without him.
I think one of the problems here too is we got so, I guess, spoiled seeing LeBron James and Dwayne Wade together that when LeBron James went back to Cleveland, it kind of decreased the value of Dwayne Wade. Maybe it's not a great comparison, but remember when Michael Jordan left Scottie Pippen, all of a sudden Pippen was left by himself and nobody really talked about Pippen as much. And that's kind of, for me, that's the way I see it in terms of how Dwayne Wade's, I guess, not just his popularity, but because his popularity is still there.
But Pippen was still the best player on that Bulls team when Jordan left. Wade is the third best player at best on this Heat team.
Whoa. Listen, per minute, Dwayne Wade is better than your boy Jimmy Butler. Now, Jimmy Butler puts in the minutes, so makes him a better player.
You're swimming in ridiculousness now. Okay, but yeah, continue.
I'm not being ridiculous. You're calling Dwayne Wade an above-average player. I don't even know where the narrative comes from. It's an absurd narrative. He's not an above-average player. He's a good player.
Above average, 46% from the field, 18, 3, 4, no blocks anymore, barely a steal a game. Gerald Green is
above average. Dwayne Wade is still.
Let's plug Gerald Green and let's do
You're
that.
doing what you do, and you're doing what you do, Chris, and giving respect to the past. And I guess there's nothing wrong with that. But come on, I'm talking about today.
I didn't call him great anymore. It's funny though, so I will give you that concession. When 2011 happened and LeBron decided to go to a super team, everyone called Wade the Superman and LeBron the Batman, or the Robin, Batman and Robin, and how far we are removed from that, where LeBron's still a superstar. So I will say that there's been a huge drop in Wade's gameplay, but for you to call it above average, I'm still sticking in my craw right now. I can't believe it. I'd rather have you go call Steph Curry better than Michael Jordan at this point.
Well, here, Chris, how about this? The gap between above average and where you put him in currently right now is really not that wide of a gap. I mean, to you, it's preposterous right now, but I think realistically, and maybe we can get some sort of confirmation from Brad or Gino here, where you are and where I'm at, where Wade is today, is really not that far off.
Okay, Gerald Green is above average. Gerald Green, to me, is an above-average player. Dwayne Wade is still a superstar. Not as great as he was.
Superstar?
Yeah. Yes,
What's going on tonight?
No.
I love that we're starting like this.
He's not a franchise player anymore, but he is still a superstar. His numbers may not be as great as it, but his impact to the game is still there. And
what capacity?
He still shows flashes of the old Flash.
And that's superstar?
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
That's superstar.
He's still superstar status. He is still superstar status because of not just what he brings on the court, but what he means to the team and to the franchise. That's why he's still a superstar.
That franchise has a bunch of bums without him.
No
I think
blocks.
Gino's point is I think he's the face of the Miami Heat,
Yes.
and thus he becomes the franchise player. Thus he is a superstar in NBA terms because he's still on the Christmas Day schedule. He's still the leading vote getter at the first returns for All-Star guards in the East. He's still associated with in the same class as LeBron James, whether his production is there or not. He's still there pay-wise. He's still there popularity-wise in some regards. But I think this comes back to why I needed to talk about D. Wade. There seems to be this sort of paralleled kind of streets that are going on here. One, which is his popularity seems to be powering on a little bit, but his production seems to be sort of slowing a lot. And because of that, because we're not paying as much attention, because we haven't quite figured out D. Wade yet and where he stands in the spectrum, we're having these sort of confused and possibly discombobulated kind of appreciation for a guy that used to be the man, but we're not too sure if he's the man anymore. So here's my take.
This conversation's a microcosm of that, where we can't all get on the same page. It's 100% a microcosm of that. But Mo, I'll say to you, you want to talk to me about being nostalgic. You're on the opposite end of the spectrum. You see it like a dog limping and not even old and ready to die. You want to take him out back and shoot him in the head. That's how you are.
That's drastic. That's drastic, but I appreciate your humor. That's way too drastic. I listen. He's still definitely, like I said, third best player on the team. You're not going to go out and back and shoot the third best player on your team, but he is nowhere near superstar status.
On the team? Oh my God.
He is. Chris Bosh, Hassan Whiteside are better than Dwayne Wade. Absolutely.
Here's Here's something that I think is really interesting that might actually help illuminate this a little bit. I think part of it is that D-Wade's visibility has dropped largely because he's backed by brands that aren't as strong as promoting athletes as some of the others. Now, when he left Nike for Li Ning, obviously that meant that he wasn't going to be a part of a major US marketing push. Their products aren't as big. They're not a conglomerate in the way that the swoosh is. And I think that his visibility has dropped significantly, partly because of the shoe deal and because LeBron left town, which meant Kyrie Irving was elevated to Batman and Robin status with LeBron, and D-Wade was kind of, left as part of a forgotten memory. But I think, we're still coming to terms with we don't know what to do with D-Wade. I mean, the numbers are more reflective of young D-Wade when he was a rookie and he was still finding his feet. But, just like Melo in New York, he's not like he's done. I mean, he's still a major contributor and he's still a significant piece of a pretty good Eastern Conference team. It's just, what the hell do we do with D-Wade? Are we doing enough? Are we not doing it, enough as the case may be? Clearly, we don't seem to have any consensus going on here. What's the story?
What we do,
I don't know, man. If you guys are calling him superstar at 8-3-4 with no blocks anymore, what the hell was he in 2008 when he was doing 30 points a game, 2.5 steals, and a block and a third a game? That's superstar. 7 assists, 5 rebounds, man. That's superstar.
I didn't call him a superstar, but I didn't call him an above-average player either. I'd lean to superstar before.
All right, fair enough.
But he's superstar in the sense that he, like what Brad said, he is the face of the Miami Heat. That is still his team, no matter what Chris Bosh, Hassan Whiteside, and the rest of those guys do. It is
Man,
still
Greg Monroe
Dwayne
is the
Wade.
face of the Bucks. He ain't a superstar.
Flash. He's the best
So let me
player
ask
in the
you
universe.
this. D-Wade's lent his name to a number of things. He's probably now more recognized for his union to Gabrielle than he is more than anything else. But D-Wade has been mega popular and driven a lot of brands over the years. Does an athlete's face on a product help you make a consumer decision? If you see D-Wade's name next to a pair of socks, are you more likely going to buy that pair of socks than a pair of socks without D-Wade's name on them? Do NBA players actually affect your consumer habits?
I think they do it for a certain demographic for sure, especially here in the Philippines, where the NBA is almost like a religion, and everybody here kind of knows pretty much every single player and every single roster of the NBA.
So Gino, everything Mo is saying is blasphemous. Then it's like the gospel according to D-Wade is being disrespected.
Stan socks in the Philippines have become extremely popular because of Dwayne Wade, and now they get an NBA deal. So I don't know if Li Ning has his new shoe brand has had that much positive feedback when he signed.
So Gino, quickly, because I know we've got to close up here.
Yeah.
What's that demographic? You talk about the demographic being influenced by NBA faces appearing next to products. What's that demographic to you?
Basically every single person here in the Philippines knows what the NBA. I think if I'm not mistaken, 70% of the population know the NBA, and we're talking about 100 million people.
And you're saying they're more likely going to buy a product because it's affiliated with an NBA player.
Yes. I mean,
Sure,
I think so.
but you know what? Dwayne Wade has socks, but guess who else has socks? Steph has socks. LeBron has socks.
Yeah.
They all have socks, and they're gonna pick those socks over Wade's socks because Wade again is no longer superstar. That's how it works.
If there's that many people who love basketball out there too, listen to our podcast.
Yeah. All right. We gotta go, guys. We gotta. But Brad, interesting discussion. Great way to start the show, by the way. All good points from Gino, Chris, and yourself. But we got to take a break. And when we come back, we have quarter number 2, and led by Chris Savage over there in New York. Don't go away. It's the Full Court Report.
He has made viewers laugh with his funny antics and awesome style in comedy. He has also been in quite a few headlines himself. Well, funny man Arnel Ignacio loves good times too. Curious if he has funny secrets he'd like to spill? Then head on to www.tv5.com.ph/originals and watch Good Times with Mo. Thursday, 9 p.m. on Digital 5. Call us on our hotline, also on Viber and Skype.
Back on the show here. Let us go to quarter number 2 of the Full Court Report. These 12 minutes belong to Chris Savage, who is in New York City. Chris, my friend, what do you got for us, man? 12 minutes on the clock.
All right. Well, thank you, my friend. I want to talk about social media in the NBA and the millennial generation, which the millennial generation, also known as Generation Y, encompasses most of the players in the NBA, really 1981 or two born until the early 2000s, and kind of their impact from a social media standpoint, but also the players and how the players from that generation, how they act today. So I'll start off with Robert Sarver, the owner of the Suns. He blamed a lot of the woes of the Suns this year based on the millennial generation and social media, which, I mean, that part is ridiculous. There's a lot of other reasons. But he said in an interview with the Arizona Republic, he said, "I'm not sure if it's just the NBA. My whole view of the millennial generation is that they have a tough time dealing with setbacks." And Markieff Morris, the deal with his brother in the offseason, he's a perfect example. He had a setback and he can't seem to recover from it. He goes on to intimate and ponder a bit if social media has a hand in this because of the instant gratification it provides, that in a way it creates unrealistic expectations where people expect for things to be solved immediately. And what it means is people are becoming less resilient. So I'll ask you this, guys. Has social media, in a way, made players less resilient, not able to overcome setbacks because they're into the instant gratification? Or is this another example of a old man yammering about the new generation and, oh, you damn kids get
old man yammering.
Yeah, exactly. So tell me, what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, no, just to jump in here quickly, Chris, it just sounds really odd to me that here is an owner who sort of seems to turn over his roster every year, doesn't give the team a chance to grow. You want to talk about resilience? How about he looks in the mirror and says, how about I give my coaches and my GM 5 years to grow something, rather than saying the second that we don't make the playoffs, I'm going to blow up the whole team and start fresh again. There's no resilience from an ownership standpoint with him because he wants instant gratification. It doesn't make any sense. And you can't go ahead and blame a social media feed or a guy's distraction because he wants to sort of access fans or be active in a platform that's beneficial to him and his family. This guy just sounds like he's not happy with the fact that he's not the center of attention more so than Morris and these guys. Look, if Morris isn't producing and he's shooting bricks and the Suns aren't winning, you can deal with that in a number of ways. But to just blast him openly and say that his whole generation's got a problem with resiliency, man, that really just sounds like a guy who's out of touch.
That's a good point. But can I just throw it in? And not, maybe I'm playing devil's advocate here or what? But
if you play devil's advocate, you better do it. You better do an Al Pacino accent.
No, I'm going to try. But here we go. Don't you think though the social media landscape, the not just instant gratification, but instant feedback, instant criticism, instant harsh criticism from a lot of people do affect the players? Not that I'm siding with Sarver here, but more just it has to play a role, doesn't it? Against in where. I mean, listen, we've been talking about it episode after episode. These guys now seem to be more spoiled than ever. And if they want changes, they're going to go ahead and be brats about it. And we dislike that. We dislike that new kind of mentality that some of these superstars or even just marginal stars are exercising. So I don't know if that has...
Dwayne Wade, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know if these guys... If this is a social media thing or it's just like we see it everywhere, instant gratification.
No, I just want to say that doesn't social media, like all of these avenues, isn't it just what you make of it? I mean, I would imagine that going to the traditional press is no different. It's like these are all tools that are at your disposal. If you like them, you can use them. If they, operate independently of you and you don't like the feedback, you can block that out through a number of ways.
Yeah, but you never really block it out because guess what? You've got family, you've got friends, you've got an entourage that don't block it out, that then kind of give you the word, oh, hey, Brad, guess what? This is what everybody's saying about you. So even if you're not reading all that hater comments, the hater comments are still going to get to you. It's going to get to you via your family and all that stuff.
How much of it is just that these guys are spoiled athletes, and you see that every generation of athletes, and how much of it is the social media is kicking it up? Is it more so now, or is it just more of a spoiled athlete now?
I don't have the answer to that. I just don't want to go ahead and say that, it's not social media is not playing a role in any of this. I think it is. I think
it is playing a role, but is it to blame? This is what I'm saying. Like Sarver in this case is saying
let's step away from Sarver here.
Well, okay.
Brad, overall, let's talk about overall, because we agree that Sarver, he's way off base here, putting all the blame on social media.
That's right.
But does he have points overall? Is there some credence to what he's saying overall?
possibly. And I think maybe the instant gratification thing, like, okay, I know this might be a little off topic, but you guys love movies, and we talk about movies sometimes on our halftime. Can't you see that in film, if action has to start right away, or else people are going to find it to be boring? You know, it's everywhere. It's not just in sports, and it's in every part of life, though. We need instant gratification. Now, is it playing a role with the Suns again with Sarver? We don't. Yeah, he's crazy to say that, but does it mean that he's wrong? I'm not 100% sure he's wrong about it.
I don't think he's 100% sure. Sure, there's a factor involved there that social media and how the millennials, if you want to call them that, the instant, how everything is so quick, everything's so instant nowadays, and it's changed. Things have changed so much because you have a direct line. People have a direct line to athletes, to celebrities, and so on and so forth. That didn't exist before. Then all of a sudden, like you see something on social media, and all of a sudden, what used to take days or a week to get to the news or to get to your favorite the sports news outlets or newspapers and whatnot, now it's instant. As soon as an athlete thinks it's out there on social media.
Right, which is a good thing and a bad thing, which we'll talk about. But so does that mean gone are the days where we make fun of them a lot, but gone are the days of athletes like Kobe Bryant, who actually falls out of the millennial generation, more Generation X, where he'll just, if it takes time to rehab over and over again for a year, for 2 years to get back, or is that just more of his persona? Or gone are the days of athletes who are going to be like that, and we're going to see guys give up so easily and kind of not put that time in?
You know, one phrase I hear all the time these days that I didn't hear maybe during the prime of Kobe was, "I'm not going to go back onto the court till I'm 100%." You know, back in those days, man, 70%, you're back on the court. You know, I hear this now. Oh, I can't risk it 100%, or else I'm not going to step out on the court. I don't know if that's connected to any of the things we're saying.
Well, right now, Steph and KD are back on the court, and they're not 100%. They're both dealing with nagging.
Right. Obviously, we're not talking about every single one of them, but we hear of it more than I would say in the past.
It's more prevalent, whatever.
Right.
Look, Chris, I guess to your point about you know, the sort of impact that this is sort of playing, and sort of, you know, the way that this is sort of changing the behaviors of young athletes, I still sort of side on the you know, idea of that these guys use the tool in a way that we never even knew was fathomable 20 years ago. Like, it's really hard to be critical of a generation that has something at their disposal and has taken full advantage of it, versus, you know, Sarver, who never grew up with this. Like, how could he possibly know what it's like to be 20 and a multimillionaire and have social media? He's got no grounds, you know, from this particular comment. And I think this is what's happening across the NBA, that we're getting a generation of players who are operating and trying to navigate waters that no one's ever been swimming in before. And yeah, look, the first people through the door are always going to get the most blowback, or always going to sort of, you know, feel the flames, or whatever the case may be. But you know what? I think that these guys are doing exceptionally well. I mean, you know, they've got teams around them, agents, managers, you know, handlers, you know, whatever, family, friends, as Mo said. Look, yeah, they're going to sort of tell them, hey, can you believe the crap that's said about you in this platform? But at the same time, they're also using this means to get certain messages out and, you know, use it for all number of ways. And look, social media, for all the damage that it could do, I think it does a lot of good, man. And I'm glad that it exists, because it connects us to the players in a way that it never did before.
Yeah. And Brad, that's a perfect segue, because there are a lot of positives, especially for the NBA. More than any other sport, at least in America, the NBA leads in social media, and announced by far. And that comes from the millennial generation pushing the game ever before. Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Vines, especially Vines now, to the point where these fans, these people in the press who are in that generation, even the players, have pushed it so far that the NBA is following suit, getting their own Vines out there. They're kind of catching up. They're not the one leading the cause. So, you know, this leads to more ticket sales, merchandise than ever before. The PR system is gone and is totally changed. But the NBA is a leader in this over other sports. I want to ask you guys, why do you think that is? Why is the NBA doing so well, pushing the social media as the way to put their league up in the highlight?
So much action. That's why. So much action so fast. Like, you know, we don't even, again, we don't hear terminology like posterize anymore. We hear, oh, he put him on a Vine. You know, like that's the new thing, right? So I think it works well for the NBA, because there's a lot of scoring, there's a lot of action, there's a lot of offense. And when you're live tweeting the game, I mean, it's just great entertainment. It's fun. It's fun to follow along. It's fun to follow along with hashtags and all of this when you're kind of watching a game. And you know, when something big happens, Unfortunately, instead of high-fiving my friends, I reach for the phone and I make sure I type about it.
And I think that's the way the culture of watching NBA games have been in the recent history in a couple of years. But more than other sports out there, more people are on their laptops or on their phones as they're watching a game, reading tweets, going through Instagram, going through Vines, and they're doing the same thing. They're having their play-by-play. They're doing their own commentary on the game as the game is going on their Twitter accounts, and following everything that's going on social media as well while following the game. It's almost like you're multitasking, watching two games and on your phone at the same time, and it's completely
and you can
changed
live
things.
your dream. Sorry to cut you off, but you can live your dream
Yeah.
as a color commentator. As you know, like when we were young playing these video games, aren't we the ones commentating our own games? Now all of a sudden we can kind of have a sense of that with this social media stuff. So, I love it, and I think NBA is a perfect game for it because it's so fast.
Yeah, I think the fluidity of that helps out. I think the NBA embracing it, that's another thing where, for instance, Major League Baseball does not. They do a bad job of that. And I think we spoke about it before. The NBA markets superstars better than anything. Now superstars are out there and they're using social media platforms to get their message across. But like what I saw as a major turning point was recently is when the whole DeAndre Jordan mess went down in the off season. Just the back and forth going on between the organizations and other players putting stuff out there. That was intriguing too. It just, I wouldn't call it the turning point because NBA was getting there anyway, but it was almost like a boiling point. Like, wow, look at the world we're in when this type of stuff happens on social media about kind of the minutia or the ins and outs of a big off season deal. So I thought that was very interesting. But other than that, NBA leads the way. It's going to continue to lead away because of that fluidity of their game, because they've embraced it. With that said, I've gone on record plenty of times saying I'm not a big fan of Twitter and I don't try to use it. It's just not my thing. But other than that, it seems like a lot of people do enjoy it. So that'll wrap up the second quarter, guys. A very, very intriguing conversation. And you can catch this episode on social media as well. Retweet it, guys. Go on YouTube, share it, all that good stuff.
That's right. We'll take a break. When we come back, we have our halftime segment. It's the Full Court Report. Don't go away. See you guys in just a bit.
A Sports5.ph original web show.
My name is Dominic Uy, and this is my buddy Kevin Limhoco.
We are going to be testing products to their nth degree, to their limits.
Cars.
How many car makers are not equipped with power steering?
Gadgets.
You feel the value of that watch.
And everything in between.
I don't like to pamper myself except in a restaurant.
This is the web show for the modern man.
Oh, let's go!
Nth degree. Catch it exclusively on Sports5.ph.
It's halftime on the Full Court Report. This is where we walk away from basketball and talk about personal lives or pop culture or anything that strikes up our fancy. And today we'll be talking about awkward celebrity encounters. And the reason why we're talking about this today is because I brought it to everyone's attention that I recently had a awkward celebrity encounter. So I'll start first before we go around the room here. And I go to every once in a while a Russian sauna. It's run by Russian Americans, and it's like you go in a Turkish bath and you just sweat it out and lose a couple pounds. That's my thing. I like to do it. I don't do it too often, but maybe once a month, once every 6 weeks. Place is filled with Russian Americans who are immigrants who still speak Russian with broken English accents. No big deal. So I'm one of the few, if you will, Americans who go there. No big deal. They accept me. They let me in their steam baths. That's fine. They're very nice to me. So I go there. It was actually yesterday, and there's two African American gentlemen there. I don't think about it twice. No big deal. There's people come in. They're going to still be in the minority like me. So I don't think twice about it. I just walk into a steam room. So I'm in a steam room and I sit down and the two gentlemen walk in. Now there's a lot of steam going on, so you really can't tell faces, but they sit pretty much right next to me. And as I'm sitting there through the steam, I look up. I look down again, I look up, I look down again, I do a double take. I said, oh my goodness, that guy right next to me is Q-Tip from A Tribe Called Quest. And
Sweet.
right next to him, right next to him was Jerobi, who was a part of the founding member of Tribe Called Quest, who was there from on the first album. So then it brings me into a dilemma. We're shirtless, pretty much down to our skivvies, and I'm a grown man now, but you get into become a fanboy in certain situations, especially as big of a hip hop fan as I am. So I start saying to myself, and I even put it out there on Facebook to some of my friends, Do I ask them for a selfie? Do I come up and approach them while we're shirtless? While we're pretty much in our skivvies? What do I do in this situation? It totally messed with my mind the whole time of what I would have to do. And I even thought about, I didn't try to stalk them, but I was trying to find the move like, hey, are they going to walk into a good area where can I make this not awkward? Though it would have been awkward no matter what. They went to the locker room. Go ahead.
The rule about asking for autographs from celebrities, like if they're at a restaurant eating, you don't do it. Never don't dare do it because
I wasn't going to ask for an autograph. I wasn't going to do that a million years. I wanted to make a comment to tell them, how much I respected them. So when they went to the locker room to change, I said, well, I'm definitely not following them in there. And I waited for them to be fully clothed, even though I was in my robe still, and they were at the counter ready to pay. And I just went up and said, hey, listen, I'm a grown man. I told myself I wouldn't do this. But I just wanted to say that I just want to tell you guys that you two are great. And they both put their fists out and they said, much love, gave me a little dap, and it made me feel good. But it got me out of that awkward encounter because I almost did follow him in the locker room, which would have been really
Sure. So, I think you handled it perfectly.
Yeah.
I think, but if back to what I was saying is like at a restaurant, you never kind of approach them because they're eating. What more at a bath, in a robe and barely, nude. But I think you handled it well because
can you sign any slippers for me?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yes, I think you handled it well, man. I think that's exactly the way to go about it. You waited till they were paying.
Classy.
It's a little awkward. It's a little awkward that you're still in your robe at this point, but it worked out well for you. Good for you.
No, he didn't flash them. He's cool.
Yeah, he didn't show him his vibrant thing.
Yeah, but guy's still in a robe. He's still glistening. I'm like,
I go to all of you, but everyone on my Facebook was trying to put a Tribe Called Quest quote and tell me what to say to them. And they said when you went up and paid, go stand next to them and smack your wallet and say, oh, I left my wallet in El Segundo. But
nicely done.
But hey, so Gino, I'll jump to you.
Yeah.
Give me an awkward celebrity occurrence.
Well, I've actually had a few, especially when I was still living in LA. But one that I do remember the most is when I was working for the show, The King of Queens. I was a PA for the show. It's one of my first actually gigs out there, and I was in Culver City, and I was PAing one of the live tape shows. And at one point, one of the guests, because they share dressing rooms with certain people who are there or who aren't there, the actors, and one of the actors that wasn't there he's the one guy that I don't remember from the show. You have Kevin James, you have Leah Remini, and then Kevin James had like three friends. Patton Oswalt was one, Victor Williams was another. He was the third friend. So anyway, he called me up and was asking for a number that he wrote down on his desk inside that dressing room. However, that dressing room was being used by another actress who plays the wife of Victor Williams on the show. And so the door was locked. I couldn't get in. I had to find a way to get into the dressing room, and I finally found a way to get in there. I was on the phone with the actor, and then as soon as I was looking through the desk and going through her stuff, basically moving her bags around, she walks in, and with this look at her face, and like, what are you doing inside my dressing room, going through my stuff? And I'm on the phone, and I'm like, oh, I'm on the phone with so-and-so. He's looking for a number that he wrote down on the desk. And as soon as I said that, he hangs up.
Oh,
obviously, the number that he was looking for was some girl that he wrote down, and as soon as this other actress walks in, he hangs up the phone. So I'm stuck there looking like a complete idiot, going through her stuff or moving her stuff around, looking for this number on the desk. And yeah, she totally did not believe me.
Yeah,
she was looking for it.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, listen, here.
I just do want to take a quick time out on this. Well, not a quick one because this is intriguing stuff. So, Brad, I'll jump over to you. What do you got?
Oh, we're just going to disregard the duration of halftime here. I like it. Let's make our own rules.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, it's like there's a power out in the arena, It's like, oh, we got to extend the halftime.
It's like Beyonce's halftime show at the Super Bowl lights.
All right, so I'm going to make mine short and sweet. 2009, I happened to have a long haul flight, Sydney to LA. I was hitting on a chick the whole flight over. I thought I was going to sort of, really score with this girl when we both landed in LA. We had separate connecting flights, but while we're waiting for our bags, we collect our bags. We're about to go through the customs check-in point. And then all of a sudden, Kanye West and his entourage walks past us, and they stop and they stand around for a little bit. And I'm like, holy hell, man, this is Kanye West, college dropout fan. I knew him sort of, for some time. And then all of a sudden, I turned to this girl and I'm like, hey, look, it's Kanye. And she goes, who? And I went, oh, okay. I guess he's not as big outside of rap circles as what I thought he was. And so clearly, Kanye, who was once a unidentified musician traveling to LAX, would now obviously be mobbed by TMZ, et cetera, et cetera. So I thought it was funny that here I was thinking this guy was a big deal. Clearly, he wasn't a big deal at the time, but now I can't imagine how that same situation would play out.
Oh,
so,
sure. It would be totally blown up from there.
All that. So that was my one and only ever run-in with Kanye West. And I will just say this for the record. He must have been on a different long-haul flight because, man, he looked like crap.
Oh, well. That's interesting. So we don't have any more time here in the halftime. We're going to get Mo's information down at another episode, but I'm going to get it from reverse point of view of his most awkward moment as him being a celebrity, since everyone knows he is the Philippine genius, and we'll get that another time. But we do have to wrap up halftime here and move on to the third quarter.
Yeah, no worries. We'll take a break. When we come back, we have our second half. You're listening to the Full Court Report. Don't go away. Back after this.
He has made viewers laugh with his funny antics and awesome style in comedy. He has also been in quite a few headlines himself. Well, funny man Arnel Ignacio loves good times too. Curious if he has funny secrets he'd like to spill? Then head on to www.tv5.com.ph/originals and watch Good Times with Mo. Thursday, 9 p.m. on Digital 5. Call us on our hotline, also on Viber and Skype.
Welcome back to the Full Court Report. It is the second half of our program, and I have third quarter duties, so I'm going to go ahead and put 12 minutes on the clock as I point guard this quarter. Timer starts now, and I'm kind of glad because now that we got the white boys out of the first half, Chris and Brad, it leaves it to us brown Asians here to take control of the show and do it strong. I'm sorry, Chris, you were saying?
Do we plan it that way? I don't know.
Yeah. We put the white boys first, and then we kind of come strong at the end here because we're the darker skinned dudes. All right. The reason why I'm bringing up this is because the night of our you know where I'm going. The night of our last episode, when the Lakers beat the Suns, Jordan Clarkson posterized Alex Len, right? At post-game press conference, reporter asked him about the dunk, and Jordan Clarkson says this, verbatim, "All I remember was Kobe telling me that I've been going to the hole like a light-skinned dude, so I've got to start doing it like a dark-skinned dude." So Kobe's advice to his teammates is, hey, man, if you're going to go strong to the hole, you better go strong like you're dark. Don't go strong like a light-skinned guy. And I'm like, man, what a very odd way to kind of give advice. Obviously, I don't want to say it's racial, but he's not half white. He's half Asian. He's half Asian, half African American. I just wanted to kind of throw the quote out there, not really have a point, just kind of go with it. I mean, is he Kobe and it's his last season? He can get away with this. Is he the anti Kevin Durant where he'll just kind of say freaking anything and you guys are just gonna have to deal with it? Who cares if you find it to be offensive? Kiss my ass. I'm Kobe, and this is my last year. You just suck it up.
Credit to Clarkson for actually admitting that was the advice that he was given. Credit to Kobe for having enough fight in him to say to the young guy, I like what I'm seeing from you, but I need more. And what I need from you is you to turn into Westbrook or you to turn into, Derrick Rose, Iverson, these other guys that just attack the rim, ruthlessly. I love the fact that there's racial connotations here that he basically should have said to him, stop being chicken breast and start being chicken legs. Because I figured that's exactly what's going on here.
So we love it when that okay, I'm not going to turn this into a racial conversation. Oh, maybe. I mean, Chris, you're better at that. I mean, you're better at maybe facilitating a conversation like that than I am because, you're in New York and all that stuff. But, it's Blake Griffin goes strong to the hole like a light-skinned dude. And, so does Steph. I don't understand where that comment is from. Maybe it's one of these things you say, with your boys, and Clarkson made the mistake by making it a media thing. I mean, I don't know. Chris, I really would love your take because, you seem to kind of always jump in conversations like this.
Well, I'll start with saying Kobe's a damn fool, but it is locker room talk. It is locker room talk, and Kobe already ran into this issue before. So if he's using it as his last year, That's weird, but I guess that's his thing. But he said a homophobic connotation in the game before towards the referee, and kind of the excuse people want to use, or when NBA players use the N word, they don't mean the derogatory things behind it. It's just what they say to each other, kind of locker room, or kind of like throwing an insult out there when you use the homophobic slur. It doesn't mean that you're homophobic. That type of stuff. The modern day sports and NBA is very conscious of, and it has to stop. I spoke about it before, but I understand what Kobe's trying to say. He's essentially trying to say that the darker skinned athlete is the better athlete, and that's just a silly mind frame to say, especially without going down the line too much. The greatest player in the world, maybe historically, Mo, is a light skinned dude, if you will.
Oh,
yeah. Well,
of course.
His secretary was red and chestnut, but
That's right.
But it's a silly premise this day and age, but it's shrouded in what some people think is fact. It's just a stupid thing, though. It's really stupid to say.
Chris, do you think the connotation, though, was essentially to be more playground, to be more, essentially ruthless, to be more kind of showboaty? Like, do you think it's less race and more like bring the basketball, like King Kong size balls to the game? Like,
but you could have said it that way.
It's shrouded in race. Yes, say it that way then. Right. I don't know if you want to say King Kong either, but it's shrouded in race. It is a racial comment in saying dark-skinned guys go to the hole stronger than light-skinned guys. It's just the way it is. Bullshit. Maybe you have fact behind it. Maybe you don't. You just don't say that stupid shit.
So you're saying this should have been don't lay it up, dunk the ball.
I mean, it should have been Clarkson should have kept it between them and not put it in the media. But I mean, Kobe, that it shouldn't have been said. It's shrouded in racial connotation. I don't want to call Kobe a racist for it, but it's clearly racial. It's clearly racial intentions to say that.
It's a racist statement. Does it make Kobe a racist? Well, we don't know. Likely not. But to say
says this to Carl Anthony Towns.
I don't have a real problem with the advice or the comment that Kobe made. I think he was just trying to be funny to Jordan Clarkson, and Jordan probably maybe shouldn't have said it to the media, but it's
definitely
I don't think Kobe's a racist at all, not one bit. So it was one of those things, like you guys were saying, locker room talk. But one thing I do recall, I mean, this is old school type basketball, because when I was in college, my coach would tell myself and two guys on the team that were Caucasian, were white boys, right, to never enter the paint. Never, ever, ever enter the paint, and just stay outside because the paint are for the brothers. And this is a white guy telling us. Our coach was a white dude, and he would tell us, we who were the minorities on the team, that we should never ever enter the paint because we don't belong there.
And Larry Bird, when a white guy guarded him, would mess with him, and he received flack for letting that out in the media just a couple of years ago. Yeah. Doesn't mean that it's an okay comment.
It's not.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
They're done with
even if Kobe was trying to be funny. Even if he was trying to be funny, it's a poor choice of words, obviously. Bad statement all around. Can't be defended. Because somebody said this to you growing up in school, Gino, it's a different time. Just can't do it anymore. Yeah. But let's move on. Listen, Tim Duncan has had a rough December, right? I mean, he was able to bounce back in these past couple of games. But, kind of jumping off of Kobe and Kobe's performances instead of his kind of what's coming out of his mouth, Tim Duncan had a 0-point game on January 2nd. Prior to that, he had a 2-point game, he had a 7-point game, he had a 5-point game in December, and not a lot was made about it. Maybe a couple articles about his 0-point game, but aside from that, not too much attention. So I wanted to ask: are the expectations different for, say, a Tim Duncan and a Kobe Bryant? Because when Kobe Bryant doesn't score, it's huge news. Is it because the Lakers are losing and the Spurs are winning, so it's okay that Duncan can have these brain fart games? What's the deal here?
That's a big part of it, because Duncan is definitely. I mean, the Spurs are the Spurs; they're definitely doing much better than the Lakers. Plus the fact that Bryant, throughout his career, that he's known as an assassin, he's known as a scorer. Duncan can score, but that's not the only thing he does. So basically, you need Kobe to score, and if he's going like what, less than 10 points in a ball game, it's big news. If Duncan does it less than 10 points, he's done it before, but he's been dominant in other factors of the game. So I mean, it's a bunch of different things, but mostly because the Spurs are doing much better than the Lakers.
But furthermore, you say, are the expectations different? Yes, Mo, they are, and that's because one of the factors is Duncan changed the expectations. He decided to take a different role with his team.
I agree with that.
He came into the situation. Kobe has chosen not to take a different role and he still wants to be the man, still wants to be the shooter. So when Duncan does it, the expectations are lower. He had a 0 rebound game this year too. It just is what it is. He chose to be a smaller part. He accepted that role. Kobe hasn't, and so that adds to it as well.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. Tim Duncan doesn't pretend to be the franchise guy anymore on this team.
Right.
And if he's going to have a 0 rebound game, a 0-point game, so be it. There are other options. He's not the first option there, and Kobe is. And when you're first option and you shoot 0 for 14, you're gonna earn it with the media and with the social media. Mm-hmm. Brad, anything?
No, I was just going to say, it is interesting. And I remember, when you first sort of floated this topic for the show, I mean, the first thing that popped in my head was, Kobe has a bad month and, man, we're crucifying him. And, Kevin Durant speaking out about, how unfair that is on Kobe. Duncan has a couple of bad games, bad week, bad, fortnight, whatever the case may be. And basically radio silence. Nobody says a thing. Nobody does a thing. I don't know if they're just fear of Pop stepping on lines. But I think really what this boils down to is the fact that, one continues to pretend they're a franchise player. The other one conceded years ago that they're no longer the franchise cornerstone.
Exactly.
And that really is kind of driving the way the media covers this. And so really for Kobe, he's got to fall on his own sword. And that's why, when not to make this about Durant, but when he made the comments that he made, it was kind of like he didn't see essentially the idea that Kobe's put himself in this position. That's why the media is being so critical of him. It's because the Lakers are built around Kobe, but the Spurs are no longer built around Tim Duncan. I mean, this is clearly Kawhi Leonard's team. They're in phase, 16 of whatever the Pop, era is. So it's the media has definitely the media has handled this and treated Duncan completely different.
Plus the fact that two franchises are completely different too. The Lakers are the Lakers and the Spurs are the Spurs. I mean, the way those two teams are perceived by the public and the fans is so different. That it's the way it's treated in this way too, like Kobe and Tim Duncan. I mean, there's so much attention on Kobe Bryant and the Lakers for different reasons than the Spurs. So I mean, but
what you're not seeing, what you're not seeing is Duncan's play didn't actually cause people, myself included, to say he should just retire tomorrow. It's not like his poor performances haven't forced the fourth estate to step in and say he's done. He's, no longer valuable to an NBA team. Earlier this show, Mo said D Wade's no longer a superstar and doesn't perform like one. Well, Duncan is very important to his team for a number of leadership reasons and can produce in a pinch like he did, I guess, today. And, can never be truly counted out. But these teams are all built around these sort of, late 90s and early 2000s sort of cornerstones completely differently. And so it's interesting that these guards kind of get a lot of flack for their inability to deliver, but then again, Duncan doesn't grab any boards, it doesn't score any points, and we go, that's so cool because Tim Duncan's going to go on and he's still going to sort of dominate the game in so many other ways, and things aren't going to show up on the stat sheet, but that doesn't mean that his value is decreased in any way or form. So there's really, I guess the point is this: there is a huge double standard going on here, and whether it's Duncan has never been the center of anything, therefore we're not too sure what we're critical of when it comes to Duncan, or this is truly where 18 veterans are supposed to be.
It's not that big of a double standard if Duncan has essentially changed his role and Kobe has stubbornly not changed his role. It's really not that much of a double standard. Duncan is in a new role in this team, but the good news for both of them is they're both better players than Dwayne Wade, right, Mo?
Of course. All right. Anyway, let's go. We got less. We got about a minute left here. Real quick, I just want to throw this out. We have yet to do this for the new year. Let's do a little power rankings instead of say top 10. Let's just go quickly top 5 around the room. Who are the top 5 NBA teams right now by standings? It's the Warriors, Spurs, Cavaliers, Thunder, and the Clippers in that order as the top 5. Who are your top 5 in power rankings? I'll start with you, Gino. Who do you got?
I got Spurs number 1. I've got Cavs number 2. I've got Cavs number 2. I think they're about to go on a roll now. I got Dubs number 3, Oklahoma City Thunder number 4. I don't even have a 5th because I'm not sold on the Clips.
You got to give me a 5th. You got to give me a 5th quickly before I have an aneurysm here. What do you got?
Pick a 5th.
I'm okay. Fine. I'll throw in the Bulls. I'm not sold on the Clips right now.
Okay, well they're number 6. It's pretty close. Let's go to Chris. Chris, you're energetic about this. What do you got?
Yeah. No, the Spurs are the best team in the NBA, but the Warriors they're obviously it's 1-1A, but I'll say the Spurs are slightly better. The Thunder are the third best team. The Cavaliers, Thunders. No, Cavaliers are third, Thunder fourth, and if I had to pick the fifth, I'll go with Clippers. That's fine. 5 Clippers.
Sounds good. Brad, what do you got?
I'm going Warriors. Anyone who picks against the Warriors right now, a healthy Steph just can't be stopped. Spurs 2, Thunder 3, Cavs 4th, and Bulls 5.
Nicely done. Real quick, we got a minute here, so a minute timeout here. I'll go Warriors, Spurs, but much closer than many of you think, because I'm a big Warriors fan. I'd go 3 with the Cavaliers, 4 with the Thunder, and at 5, let's just throw out. Yeah, I'll go with the Bulls. They're on a nice little run, and Jimmy Butler's playing out of his mind, so I'll go at the Bulls at number 5. So a lot of slimmers. Well, yes, that's true. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, fourth quarter, and we're going to go to Manila, Philippines with Gino Rufino for that. Back after this. It's the Full Court Report.
A Sports5.ph original web show.
My name is Dominic Uy, and this is my buddy Kevin Limhoco.
We are going to be testing products to their nth degree, to their limits.
Cars.
How many car makers are not equipped with power steering?
Gadgets.
You feel the value of that watch.
And everything in between.
I don't like to pamper myself except in a restaurant.
This is the web show for the modern man.
Oh, let's go!
Nth degree. Catch it exclusively on Sports5.ph.
Back on the Full Court Report, it is fourth quarter time, and we have Gino Rufino in charge of his 12 minutes. So, Gino in Manila, what do you got for us, man, here in the fourth?
Thanks, Mo. And earlier today, the New York Knicks played the Miami Heat, and the Knicks ended up winning 98-90. But it got me thinking that not that long ago, these two teams just really hated each other. I mean, we had, whether it was Jeff Van Gundy hanging on to Alonzo Mourning's leg, being dragged along in Madison Square Garden, or Chris Childs and Allen Houston going at it. And, but basically these two teams have a colorful history as far as a rivalry is concerned in the NBA. And it got me thinking, where have the rivalries gone? What happened? The Lakers, Celtics, obviously probably the best known rivalry in professional sports in the NBA. There were 3 different generations of it. You had the West Chamberlain, Bill Russell era, Bob Cousy era, and then you had, of course, the Magic Bird era, and then you had a little bit of the Kobe and Kevin Garnett era as well for the Lakers and Celtics. And then you start thinking about where have the rivalries gone? I was starting to think about like the Bulls Pistons, the Bad Boy Pistons, and Michael Jordan, the Pacers Knicks with Reggie Miller, the Kings Lakers. But I can't think of a current one that's around that even in a regular season, you look at the game, you look at the schedules and be like, hey, this is going to be good. I'm not a fan of either team, but I'm going to watch this game because there's going to be something that's going to happen. I can't think of one. I mean, are the Clippers and Warriors one of those now? Are they a real rivalry? I mean, what do you guys think?
It's a different culture, and that's the big thing. And the culture is different in that these players, even on opposing teams, they're buddy with each other.
Yes.
They play with each other in AAU and become friends at an early age. And we saw one that was budding in that someone like Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce didn't play that type of game, and they were trash talkers and didn't have friends on opposing teams. And they did that with the Cavaliers in LeBron's first run with them, trying to get in his head a little bit, actually did get in his head. And LeBron after that fled to a super team in Miami. So there was a chance at a rivalry, even though Garnett and Pierce were getting older. But that's, in my opinion, the main shift is these guys are so buddy. You can't have a heated rivalry like you saw with the Pistons and Bulls in the late 80s. And by the way, the Knicks Heat score today was 98-90. 15 years ago, it would have been 68-60. But
sure,
that's my take on that.
But is this good though? I agree with you because
it makes me so mad. It makes me so mad, so angry. I wish there was some blood in the water. I wish there was blood in the water. These guys need to. It's just the whole buddy and giving each other hugs before games. Oh, just stop. Go hard to the hole and dunk on someone. Go hard to the hole like you're dark skinned.
What's interesting, Gino, is the fact that these teams now have to be super careful with what they do obviously off the court because of social media and how it's a 24-hour opinion cycle. And I think that plays into it. Like none of these teams now want to sort of big up regular season games the way they used to, because you don't have like a single media outlet sort of reporting on the rivalry. Now you've got 600 media outlets reporting on the rivalry. And I think that inflates things to a point where it's probably unhealthy for the players. They go into, a shoot around in the morning, they get 40 reporters around them asking them about the matchup tonight and about the significance of the rivalry. And, the media, I think, is now sort of having maybe too much sort of influence over the way these rivalries are reported. Used to be, something would happen in the game and then the rivalry would manifest afterwards. Now it's all about hype and build up. And I think that's detrimental to rivalries growing in a quite a natural sort of sense.
But the NBA kind of sold the game before because of the rivalries that existed.
Right, but the rivalries existed based on history between teams. It wasn't like you went into Knicks, Pacers, knowing that Reggie Miller and Spike Lee were going to go at it. Like that happened in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then as a result of that, we go, I think there's a rivalry manifesting here because they saw each other through a 7-game series, didn't like each other. One team advanced, one team was disgruntled, saw each other the following postseason. Something else happened. And so it took years for this stuff to build up. It wasn't like, game 26 into the season, Warriors versus Clippers, all of a sudden the rivalry exists because Chris Paul put 25 points on Steph Curry and then next game he had 35 on CP3. Like, it's like we see somebody cross somebody up and we're like, all of a sudden that's a rivalry. It's like we're a little bit too liberal with the term rivalry. I think that's part of the problem as well.
Sure.
We need to be a little more careful. Like, I think there's a legitimate rivalry between Oklahoma City and Memphis because that's two small market teams fighting for the same piece of the pie and built similar ways. And, Tony Allen has done things to Kevin Durant in the playoffs that Durant's not happy with in terms of, preventing him from getting his spots. The Oklahoma City Thunder paper called him Mr. Unreliable as a result. Like, there's a number of, I think there has to be things that have to grow as a result of these teams playing each other year after year versus – why aren't there more rivalries?
Does the fan base have to do something about it though, Brad? Does the fan base, the cities have to do something about it? Like they themselves?
Yeah,
like, I'm in agreement with what Chris said. Like, yeah, these guys are buddies. They're doing TV commercials together. Some of them have to share the same agent, so
they
they're all
share banana boats.
Yeah, they're all brothers now and stuff like that. So who? How do we get it back? Do we now have to do it? People from these cities or the fan base?
Well, geography plays a part, and I think that helps when teams are both competitive. And I also think that a lot of these rivalries were born because there was a championship on the line. Like, you can't have, basically Brooklyn, New York be a rivalry when neither team is fighting for the title. Like, some of the real sort of grit and blood that comes from these matchups happens in the playoffs.
Yes.
So halfway through the regular season, it's really hard to say that, this is a rivalry or this used to be a rivalry. I still think certain players go at each other harder than others. We've talked about this on the show before. Westbrook really likes to destroy Patrick Beverley, in a number of ways because of retribution for what happened there. I definitely think that some guys feel hard done by when they're traded and love to sort of stick it to their old teams. But in terms of, the idea that they're buddy, look, yeah, some of the elite guys go away to camps every year, and of course they develop friendships.
But does free agency play a role? Do trades play a role just because all of a sudden the core group every year is changing?
Sure. Right, so you have to be knocked out of the playoffs, and that's how the bad boy Pistons Bulls thing happened, is Jordan got knocked down by that team, 3 postseasons in a row or 2 postseasons in a row, and it was always the second round of the conference finals. That's how that grew into something bloody and memorable. It wasn't like, the bad boy Pistons and Jordan faced each other one time in the regular season, and all of a sudden we declared it a rivalry. Well, like, some of this is just, we need history to play out before we can anoint these things or crown these things.
How about
true rivals?
There has to be genuine dislike. We saw it, like I said, with the Celtics, Cavaliers. We saw it with the Knicks and the Heat. There, obviously, we saw it with the bad boy Pistons and the Bulls. And if it's not genuine dislike, even though there was at that level of the Lakers and Celtics, there has to be a build-up of hype where, in a lot of ways, it was white versus black, Celtics versus Lakers, and that adds to a rivalry as well. There needs to be that.
How can be the dislike when one team, one year we're against each other, the next year we're teammates, and the next year I got another guy who used to be on my team 3 years ago? How do we do that?
But how about this, though? I mean, let me just throw this out there. How about the fact that the world has gotten smaller? You have somebody living in Boston, a diehard Warriors fan. You have somebody, you know what I mean? Like, because of social media, because of the technology, the internet, and somebody who is based in the other side of the country or the other side of the world is able to follow a different team, not from his city, not from his state, and adopt that team as their favorite, because does that play a factor? Is that a factor at all?
It's definitely a factor, and basketball's turning into that, and people having less allegiance to teams in general because of the fantasy side. I see it more so, and NBA will catch up. I see it more with the NFL, where people can watch any team all over the country, or don't have allegiance because of gamblers in fantasy. Well, you're definitely seeing it with the NBA too. The world is a lot smaller. We talked about social media access, so that makes the fan base, especially if you're not living in the area, less rabid. So are the fans part of it too? The fans have to do something, yes. And if they're not local, what can they do? It makes them just a less rabid bunch.
Right. And look, the tribalism still exists, and it will always exist, because that's just the nature of pro sports and sports fandom in general. But yeah, I think you're right. Like, the fact that League Pass lets a kid watch any team, any game he wants, he's going to follow his favorite player versus the team that's down the road from where he lives.
Yeah.
I think that obviously influences things to a large degree. But also, you got to remember, like, we're not talking about necessarily rivalries that existed between, like, Seattle and Portland have a very long history because of the geography there. And like, they really went at each other for decades. Right. And, like, I think that finished 98-94 in favor of Seattle before they relocated. Now,
how's it working out?
Right now, the Thunder and Dallas, because it's only 3 hours apart, is developing a rivalry. I know the Spurs and Mavericks don't like each other because there was a number of playoff battles. I loved watching Steve Nash's sons play, Tim Duncan's Spurs, year after year in the playoffs, and Nash could never get the better of them. Like, I think sometimes this just comes down to creating heroes versus villains and picking which side of that you want to sort of stand on.
But I don't think anything you described are close to major rivalries. Now, heroes and villains are a big way to market it to get that, but I don't think anything you described are close. They're not really close to real rivalries of what we've seen in the past. I don't think they are.
Yeah, I mean,
but I think those things are actually far and few between. I don't think rivalries are all that common. I think they've never been that common. It's just the history's been written by a few big rivalries, and as fans, we've let that dictate the history of basketball. Like, I don't think that historically it's always been the case that we've always had generations and decades full of rivalries.
I think the
misrepresentation.
The modern rivalry is, again, with the changing modern game, with a superstar based game. You have players now, right? You have players now ranking themselves of who's better this year and who's better historically. We had Klay Thompson just the other week say he was the best shooting guard, and then James Harden fires back and says, "Oh, come on, we know the truth." So it's a lot more it's a lot more individuals now, and we've talked about this in past episodes that individual rivalries are now more important than the city rivalries and the team rivalries. And that's just kind of with the changing times. And, again, maybe it is because of fantasy. Maybe it is because of League Pass that I now can watch Anthony Davis every single day. I live nowhere near New Orleans, and all of a sudden now he's my rivalry with some other big guy instead of my team versus their team. It's just a different time.
It is definitely a different time.
And look, this is the other thing. I would just say this just quickly. Some of the rivalries are born through physical altercations. Now, the NBA has changed the rules of play so that you can't elbow guys anymore or take them out when they go for a layup. So if you drive the lane...
You can still play physical. You can still trash talk. You can still play physical. Again, I want to go back to the Celtics of 2008, 9, 10. Those guys still played physical. They pushed the best player in the world around. They made him choke. Them and Delonte made him choke in a playoff series. So, I mean, there's no problem that you can still have rivalries. Go do it. Just don't run away if you're that other player to a super team and stay in the same city, and you can make it happen.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, changing times, changing game, things continue to change. Thank you, gentlemen. The quarter is over.
All right. We'll take a break. When we come back, we have overtime. You're listening to the Full Court Report. Back after this.
He has made viewers laugh with his funny antics and awesome style in comedy. He has also been in quite a few headlines himself. Well, funny man Arnel Ignacio loves good times too. Curious if he has funny secrets he'd like to spill? Then head on to www.tv5.com.ph/originals and watch Good Times with Mo. Thursday, 9 p.m. on Digital 5. Call us on our hotline, also on Viber and Skype.
All right, guys, welcome back to the program. This is the Full Court Report overtime session. And for the next 5 minutes, I really want to talk about NBA fans and what's expected of them when they come to the arena. We saw that fans in Utah started pointing lasers at James Harden while he was at the free throw line. Clearly, the beard was upset. I don't know what the story was there. The fan apparently got banned for life, but the NBA hasn't disclosed who exactly the fan was. And of late, we've seen some odd behaviors from the stands. Now, I've always been of the belief that if a player initiates something, minus, of course, Ron Artest running into the stands in the Malice of the Palace, but if a fan wants to high five someone in the front row in the expensive seats, hey, I'm all for it, man. Like, you're close enough. You want to touch your favorite player's sweaty palms. That's cool. But yeah, man, what do we think of this? I mean, what do we expect, or what should we expect of fans when they go to arenas? I mean, you can shout profanities at players, but lasers, I guess, is where the NBA draws the limits. So,
4 days ago, remember what happened? Was it in Charlotte with Kevin Durant? There was a fan there that got a red card because he started lecturing Durant that was too close to. He was invading his space. He's like, "Hey, I paid for this seat." Mr. Durant, you're too close to me. So, I mean, I think when it gets to kind of physical contact, the profanities, I guess I'm okay with, but what I want to see the fans get creative in their trash talking, but not really get too close. We see this in collegiate basketball when the guys are shooting a free throw. You got a guy wearing a bikini, or they got a horse head, and they're almost even doing some kind of sexual gyrations with their bodies and stuff. I love all of that stuff, man. I love when Matt Barnes is at the free throw line that the Indiana Pacer fans are screaming Derek Fisher. I love the trash talk. If it gets a little nasty, fine. But when it comes to this, where
that's home court advantage.
Exactly, man. Listen, home court advantage is massive, and if it's your role as a fan to be a part of that. But to touch a player, obviously, all of these things are big no-nos when you're sitting in the front row.
Yeah, I'm all for the Spike Lee treatment. That's fine, unless you spur the opposing team to beat your team. That's when you're really stepping over the line. Obviously physical contact we spoke about. But what I'll say is the big thing for me is if you're going to be a fan and do something, you got to own it. And there was, I believe it was on Christmas Day, there was a fan mocking LeBron James behind his back.
Yeah.
There was a fan, he turned over to her, and she quickly pretended that she wasn't doing anything. So she dropped her hands and played all coy. If you're going to do something and call something out or call them a crybaby, you need to own it. And that's what I want fans to do. You better own that.
So you better own that laser pointer.
Yeah.
and flash it to everybody so that they know it's you that's pointing the laser.
That's too far. That guy got a 1-year ban, by the way.
Yeah.
Right. So, Chris, you want someone to own it the way that woman owned her middle finger flip to Joakim Noah those years back when he was walking into the tunnel, and that woman, in the expensive seats leaned over the rails and got her finger up in his face and was screaming profanities. You want them to own it to the point of,
she owned it.
Unapologetic. Yeah. Just, you know what? LeBron, you think he's a choker? Tell him, LeBron, you're a choker. What's he going to do? Nothing. He can't. He's on national television. He's going to just, you have to accept it.
If you're about this life, then prove you're about this life. If not, keep your mouth shut.
So I don't know if you guys saw this, but in the December 15th game, there was a business manager in Sacramento that works with DeMarcus Cousins. I believe Andrew Rogers is his name. He was ejected after he slapped Jason Terry's hand after the guy ran across the baseline. I mean, do we think that that sort of behavior is acceptable? I mean, this guy was thrown out, then it turns out his buddy was thrown out later that same game too. So clearly those guys had a gripe to pick with the team. But I don't know, how close do we want our athletes to get? Should we be protective of the athletes more than we are? I mean, do we want to see a hockey style barrier put up, or do we think this is cool that fans can interact and get up close and feel the sweat?
I think that's one of the draws of the NBA and why those expensive seats are always filled, because you're so close to the action. You're almost part of the action. There are times when the players jump over you or end up on the seats. And
or hospitalize you, as was the case with
Jason Day's wife. Yes, but I mean, those are one of the reasons why people pay for those expensive seats, because they're part of the action, and that's one of the. I mean, in more than the other sports out there, like in the NFL and NHL, even baseball. I mean, you're really there. You're seated just a few feet from the baseline.
Yeah, and I think as a penalty. Go ahead, Mel.
No, those people, though, I mean, who pay the big money, they generally come. It usually comes with an element of class, most of the time, not all the time.
But
you know what I mean? So, I love sitting up there. I've sat on the baseline a few times. I've sat in the midsection, but there's nothing like sitting up there in the nosebleeds with those guys, man. I mean, I wish there were a microphone up there. I wish there were microphones up there, and kind of so the players can hear what's being said out there. I mean, that's where the home court advantage is. It isn't on the baseline when they're up close. It's all the way up there by the retired numbers and the banners. That's where all the action is.
Right. And I also feel as a penalty, instead of being ejecting these people from the game if they do something over the line, they should just be forced to interview Greg Popovich as a penalty, and that should be what they do going forward.
Here's one thing I just want to bring up real quick, and I don't know if we have time for this. It's how we're talking about fans and how they want to behave. It's how should fans behave towards fans of an opposing team? We're seeing a lot more violence these days at the parking lot where people are getting friggin' killed because of the rivalries and stuff. I mean, I would love to go to these games wearing the opposing team's jersey if that's in the city I'm in, or if I traveled to see them without thinking that I'm going to get my head smashed in.
Right. But just to finish on a lighter note, you could be like that Lakers fan who switched jerseys halfway through the game just to protect himself.
That's right, with the Golden
State. So fandom's fickle, man. Like, it's whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, sure. Really quickly, Mo. I mean, I'm a huge Giants and Mets fan, but I would never go to an Eagles home stadium or a Phillies home stadium and wear my home team's jersey. I'm just not that stupid. Now, violence shouldn't happen anyway, but I wouldn't wear my home team's jersey in those opposing stadiums. So don't be stupid. Don't try to force it a little more than it has.
Yourself.
Oh, listen, I've always worn jerseys to the opposing team, and when they throw popcorn at me, I smile it off. I don't turn around and get aggressive because I know in the end I'm going to be the one who's going to get smashed in because it's strength in numbers.
Go to Philadelphia. They won't throw popcorn at you. They'll throw batteries.
That's right, but see, that's the thing. That's kind of when we should kind of stop that kind of behavior. Especially, I mean, I've been in the Giants Stadium, New York Giants, with the Dallas Cowboy games, and there's guys out there just completely berating another guy, and the guy's got his kid there. His kid ends up crying because he doesn't want to see all of this stuff. It gets really nasty, and I think that's the part that we should really kind of start calming down and start changing with the times.
And you guys should see how the fans here in the Philippines react to the opposing players, especially when the fans of Ginebra, when they throw coins at the opposing players on the floor.
It's a really popular local team is what Gino's talking about. Yeah, and they get kind of crazy over there too. Yeah. But anyway, you know what? Let's get out of here. This has been a great episode. A lot of energy. Had a lot of fun with you guys tonight. Before we say goodbye, real quick though, let's go around the room, plug our social media accounts, and get out of here. Let's start with you, Chris, in New York. What's up?
As always, at Not Bill Walton, and I want to apologize to Suns owner Robert Sarver for helping his team tank.
All right. Gino in Manila, what's up?
At Gino Rufino, JINNO RUFINO, and that's on Instagram and on Twitter.
All right, Brad, what's up?
You can follow me on Twitter at BackpackBaller. Not a lot of activity of late. That's because I just saw Star Wars Episode 7, and Mum always said, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all.
Ooh, that's right.
Wow.
Off air, not very happy about the recent Star Wars.
We'll talk about this next episode. Mo, let's get out of here.
Halftime next episode. DJ Mo Twister on Twitter and Instagram. See you guys next time. This has been the Full Court Report. We appreciate all your support, and we'll see you with our next episode. Bye, guys.